aliens.
Hello! I was wondering if I might trouble you for a cup of strong black coffee, and in the process engage you with an anecdote of no small amusement.
Welcome to the NerdyVerse. This is a series we do on Nerd Herder where we talk about things that aren't Star Wars because they exist and we like them usually.
They tend to exist, don't
they? Just like different people, they exist and you've got to get over it and accept it. If you can't, we have an island for you. Anyway, so we wanted to start a new thing with NerdyVerse. We've teased some incoming content for it, and there's a lot of exciting things, and I think this month is probably the most packed in for our other loves of fandom.
Yeah.
March has a lot of exciting things that we're going to talk about. We're not going to announce everything too early, just to make sure that we can deliver it when we want to deliver it, but we have a lot to deliver.
Howdy, just call us UPS.
I was going to say DoorDash, but it's fine. I mean, you can eat your package if you want. But
please don't eat your package.
Right. We're talking donuts, we're talking pizza, we're talking sushi. We've got all kinds of things lined up to deliver to you very soon.
What about challah?
I don't know what that is.
I ordered some challah.
I holler at people sometimes.
It's bread.
But yeah, and of course we've got Star Wars content on the regular as well, and then also some of our not nerd content, our hat chatter, where we kind of just chit chat.
It gets a little nerdy sometimes, but
so I mean it is when we talk about ourselves and from the heart, it's gonna, because that's a part of our fiber and everything. But by and large, we're not reviewing, we're not doing anything in particular. It's just chatting, and that's fun, and we appreciate everybody that supported the previous. I mean, we've only gotten one episode out and everybody seemed to really like it.
Yeah.
And so we're excited to deliver a couple of more very soon, where we just chat about whatever the hat decides.
It's a very nice hat.
Yeah, it's very polite. He doesn't force us to do anything, although he does say that he'll kill our parents if we don't.
Yeah.
So
it offers its hand a lot for a hat with no hands.
Yeah, anyway, this is a metaphor. But today what we wanted to do with NerdyVerse was start something new that we started new, or I started new, where we take an episode of X-Files to discuss, because you really like X-Files. I'm new to X-Files, and it's content.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I have found in the last couple of years that 90s television is where it's at. Like, I am such a huge fan of that era of TV for some reason. Mm-hmm. Like, I love... Twin Peaks is my favorite show. Yeah. I have not been quiet about that.
And we'll probably... So this is opening the door to other things. I mean, this is an episode about X-Files, but in general, that one time on insert show here, it's probably going to be a mainstay of NerdyVerse, because there's just so much to talk about. We can't do everything for every series we love.
Yeah.
But we also can't not talk about it. So the idea of this one is taking... Not really cherry picking, but... getting the highlights.
Getting the good ones.
Yeah.
Well, all of X-Files is good. Most of X-Files.
Except that one episode.
That episode, it peeved both of us. Really.
Yeah. Don't watch the one with cockroaches. Or do.
No, that's the one that we liked.
Is it?
Yeah. It's the next one right after that.
It's the Psychic Girls. Yeah. That's right. Gotcha.
Yeah, they sucked.
Yeah.
Hate it.
Clearly, I can't remember everything. It all kinds of blends together for me. So you are primarily in charge of driving this boat, and I'm just going to talk about what I feel like.
Get ready.
Because my whole thing is I'm not super invested. I mean, I'm interested, but it's one of those things where it's like I'm not keeping up with every little detail. I'm just enjoying what I watch.
Yeah, I just randomly asked if you wanted to watch X-Files with me one night. Where I had started.
You've asked before.
Yeah, I'd started on the first season, and you were just along for the ride in the other room while I played video games.
Right.
And then one night you actually said yes to me asking you.
I figured it was time. Yeah. I figured it was due. I had to do my husbandly duties and oblige at some point.
And watch David Duchovny.
Yeah, I'm not excited about him. I don't really like him.
But yeah, like I was so excited when you started asking questions about the characters.
Yeah, I'm much more there for the lore. I'm much
Mm-hmm.
more there for the monsters and the weird stuff and the story more than the characters. I like Scully. Um, she's got a great actress.
Yep.
She's a very clearly developed character. I think Mulder and Duchovny are bigger road bumps for me. I will say it's gotten much better. Like season 2 had
Yeah.
elements that have gotten much better. We're just starting season 3. So far, it hasn't done anything, but it seems like with every season they get a little bit better with his character. Because I think that they have trouble, and this is just like what I'm imagining is the issue, because clearly they can write well.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is with Fox that's so hard. I think it's just that maybe it's hard to do anything other than the blind believer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just like he just feels so monotone throughout.
Yeah, and that can be a hang up for quite a few people with the first few seasons of the show, is that the
It's
characters
drab.
are a bit underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Except for, like you said, Scully. Scully is just the best.
I really think she's the main character. I know we spent a lot
I
of time
agree.
with Fox Mulder and everything, but I think she's the better window into it, and I think again she's the better one to kind of keep track of. Like again, her story really does well to develop, and she's likable. She's interesting. She asks the right questions. She's not completely sold off, but she's not completely sold on. She's complex and well
Yeah.
built.
And she has a lot of fantastic moments of questioning faith. Like, if whether that's her, she's Catholic. Surprise.
She's an interesting one.
She's very
because she believes in
interesting.
science, but she believes in Jesus, which I'm not saying are
Yeah.
completely counter. It's just sometimes
She's a medical doctor.
yeah. Well, I just mean like sometimes she's so one. She's hard to believe to be the other.
Yeah.
It's just like there's episodes where she's like so science. It's just
Yeah.
like wait, you go to mass like
Yeah.
But then there's times when she's not super faithful, but she's more faithful, and it's just like wait, what happened to your science?
Yeah, she has a lot of interesting moments, like I said, of questioning faith. Like, she has little to no problem with a lot of the spirituality in some of the episodes, but when it comes to aliens, that's the hang up for her.
Yeah, I think when it gets a little too weird, it definitely creates more of an issue for her to kind of tag along. But and my thing is I just think it's writing issues more than anything. I think it's just a matter of consistency between episodes and between writers that falters for me, that creates the issues I have. But it doesn't necessarily stop me from watching and enjoying the episodes.
Yeah, and
I just notice it.
there's two different kinds of episodes for X-Files. There is the overarching story, which is referred to as the mythology, and then there is Monster of the Week episodes. A lot of these episodes are written by completely different people week to week.
Well, yeah, that's what a lot of shows are like in that kind of syndication. I think that with this kind of story, though, it sometimes doesn't help.
Yeah, and you see a lot of different, like, creative voices. Like, two of our favorite episodes, Humbug and War of the Carphagias.
I don't pay attention to titles.
It's a cockroach one.
Yeah.
Those two were written by the same guy. The name completely escaped me, but when we talk about that one, I'll talk
We'll
about
have
it.
that. So we're not talking about that one.
Not that one.
Process of elimination.
No, this week we are talking about for a long time, it was my favorite episode. It was the first episode I really watched of X-Files. Like, that's something I've said to you when we're watching it, is I have never seen X-Files in its entirety, even though it is one of my favorite shows. I grew up, with the magic of syndicated television. So I watched it on the Sci-Fi Channel pretty much every time it was on, which was late at night or early in the morning, depending on what kind of kid you were.
Yeah.
But yeah, I watched a lot of it through syndication. And for a long time, it wasn't really readily available for streaming. So when I found out it was on Hulu, I got so excited because I got to go back and watch all my favorites and discover new ones.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was a follow-up episode for Squeeze, which is both what we're talking about today. Yeah, Squeeze and Tombs are a overarching story between... No, they're both in season 1.
Yeah.
Season 1, episode 3 is Squeeze. I think episode 13 is Tombs.
It's a bit later.
Yeah, it's a while away in season 1, which it's so weird that these were such good episodes in season 1.
Yeah, and over even just the idea of bringing back someone from an earlier part of the season. Usually you either wait season to season for something like that, or you just don't. Like, you just don't see them again, you know. So much of these episodes aren't consistent with the villains. So, you know, when the episode's done and they're in jail or they're, you know, on the lam, it's just like, oh, that's it. That we're not hearing from them again.
Yeah, it's like, especially with the Monster of the Week episodes, they're not, you know that's the end of that character most of the time. But yeah, he comes back. It's exciting because the character of Tombs is so interesting, and there's so many questions left unanswered in that first episode that it would be a crime for them not to come back and re-explore that character.
Yeah. So that one time on X-Files where the guy was a lizard. Let's talk about it.
He wasn't a lizard.
It's the closest approximation, right? Like, they're
Kinda.
like snaky or something.
Don't.
This was the beginning of the dissatisfaction of X-Files episodes for me, where it's just like, oh, so they're just not going to really explain it. They're just going to say he's weird, and you know that's kind of it. I mean, they give enough lore where it's just like, oh yeah, like, yeah. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, but we don't get the full who, what, when, where, why of motivations.
Yeah, the basic yada yada is he is a genetic mutant with a very slow metabolism, which allows him to hibernate for periods of 30 years, which... So this episode came out in 1993.
And we're talking about which 2 episodes again?
We're talking about Squeeze and Tombs.
Okay.
Season 1, episode 3, and season 1, episode...
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, he hibernates for 30 years in between killings. The first one is in 1903, then 1933, then 1993. We're coming up on the 30th year, kiddos.
Oh, yeah.
Like, 2023
Too
is
bad
going to be...
the show's canceled again.
Again.
Or over. I don't know.
I don't know. I never watched the later
Yeah,
seasons,
so that's going to be first time for both of us, so it's going to be interesting.
Heck yeah, it's going to be great. But yeah, he's a genetic mutant, is the
and so
basic
these are
understanding.
arguably the Monster of the Week ones, where it's the monster we're dealing with is the monster of this episode, not necessarily a big overarching villain. It's just he's here for when he's here.
Yeah. So the character of Toombs, Eugene Victor Toombs, is played by the actor Doug Hutchinson, who boy,
Oh yeah, problematic human.
incredibly problematic human. You may know him from the movie
Green Mile.
The Green Mile. Yeah, the dead man walking. We got a
Yeah,
dead man
the
walking
horrible
here.
person.
Garbage.
The worst person.
Garbage human.
Not as bad as the guy that actually killed the girls.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
just
Sam Rockwell.
yeah. But he's actually
a good character.
yeah,
like
well, not good character. Good
No,
like
yeah.
he's a good
well done.
Yeah. Well, no, he's a good person. Like he himself is redeemable.
Yes.
So it's like, oh, he played
Yes.
a bad person really well, but at least he's nice.
Yeah,
no,
he didn't marry a 16-year-old.
Yeah, at 40.
He was 41.
Yeah, like
Yeah, that's gross.
I feel like somebody out there is going to be like, well, that's not that bad. Like, no, just
Shame on you.
get out of here. Like,
Can't be doing that.
that's just ugh. And then if you look at the situation, you see even more just problem. Like,
So
not
much
great.
problem.
There's a reason he plays not great people
Yeah,
so well.
He's been in a lot of other stuff, but
And I'm not
whatever.
like
man.
you know, we're not here to sell out his entire life. We're just saying that there's parts.
he made bad choices.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Like
Yeah, don't marry a 16-year-old.
Weird guy plays weird character. There we go.
And like makes weird choices in the show as well. Like he filmed the entire ending scene of Tombs naked. Like when he's under the escalator, he was covered in Caro syrup and
Oh,
like,
the very, very end.
yeah, the very very end. Like, we're not talking about this in sequence.
I
so
thought we were
if you
talking
wanna-
about the first episode. Sorry.
We are. I just
No, I meant the end of the first episode.
No, yeah.
That's why I was like, why was he naked for
The
that?
second season. Yeah, when
Well, all we needed was his arm. Why was he naked?
he was straight up Nicky.
I mean, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like,
And he didn't even get asked to do it naked. Like, he
that kind
just
of person,
decided
yeah,
to.
that kind of person doesn't, like, no, they just do.
Yeah, you just get covered in Caro syrup and just be naked under an escalator, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of, like, character actors in this episode. It's like Doug Hutchinson playing Toombs, and then Agent Butthole Magoo, don't remember his name, it's Fuller. His name is Fuller. Is played by, I'm sorry, I'm not wearing my glasses.
That's a weird name.
Kevin McNulty. Yeah.
Doesn't ring a bell.
He's been in so many movies and so many shows. He was in Twister, I think.
Never seen it.
Well,
Yeah.
you never had a steak for breakfast, apparently.
No, that's not breakfast food.
the people from Twister beg to differ. And also
well.
Waffle House.
That's not steak.
No, it's not. It could be cow.
I mean, it's probably
As far
something.
as we know.
Something related to cow.
Yeah, it's Kevin McNulty was the dad on not 8 Simple Rules, the other one. It was one of the shows that came on when I came home from school. That was on like TBS or something. I don't remember. But yeah, he was the dad on that. It had the one with the hot mom. That's all I remember. Yeah. That is the two most, I guess, important actors that went on to do other things. Other than, David Duchovny and Scully.
Which David Duchovny is Fox Mulder, who's the believer, and
I can't remember her name for the life of me.
Gillian Murphy? No, not. I'm thinking Killian Murphy.
No.
It's Gillian something, right?
No, that's I know who you're thinking of, and that is Wesley Crusher's mom, Gillian Anderson.
No, it's something Gillian. I'm pretty sure.
Should I look it up?
Sure.
Okay.
But she plays Scully, who is, like we mentioned, the Catholic science-y skeptic. And that's pretty much the setup you need for the entire thing. There's more story to everything, but by and large,
You were right.
that's the whole plot. It's Andy Gillian, right?
It's Gillian Anderson.
Gillian
I was
Anderson.
thinking of
It was
someone
some
else.
combination of things, because
Yeah.
that's just a weird name.
Who is a stunning human, just in general.
So, like, that's really all you need. I mean, even for the greater plot, the whole point is you've got this believer and this skeptic partnered together to handle weird cases, and this is the weird case.
And that never works in real life. Skeptics and believers never get together just in general.
We have way more chemistry, though, but then they do.
Like, we've said before, I think, like, you are the Shaniac, I'm the Bugara.
Which means nothing to most
If you're a
people.
fan of BuzzFeed Unsolved.
Yeah. Which, if you're not, that means you're more open-minded to a lot of weird stuff, more so than I am.
Yeah. Like, my whole belief system is, I don't know. Like, maybe. And, like, that's it. I tend to have a more open mind for things like ghosty goos and aliens and stuff like that because of the fact that, I don't know.
Yeah. That one show on Fox said it's possible.
Exactly.
Ancient Aliens. They wouldn't make a show on History Channel
Exactly.
if it wasn't true.
Aliens.
Yeah. So, yeah, and usually the main thing that usually calls in these guys is, hey, something weird happened.
Yes.
Usually ends up in a murder, but we need help because we can't explain it. So you call the FBI.
Yeah. You call the FBI and it gets rooted down to Mulder, who lives in the basement.
Yeah.
Spooky Mulder, who is
It's a stupid name.
He does the X-Files.
Yeah, that's the whole point. The name of the show is the whole thing. These are the weird cases. These are the, we don't really have an answer for it, so
Yeah.
we're just going to file it away.
These are the things that no one's investigating. Like, that's
Yeah, like
part of the whole
the
plot.
big thing that gets irritating throughout the whole series is that, like, they make it out like, oh, they're investigating this because nobody else cares, when in reality, the government's in on it and cares very much.
Oh, yes.
It just perpetuates that long-held skepticism that the government's in on it. They know, Roswell, and they're hiding secrets and blah, blah, blah.
All I'm saying is that the CIA killed Kennedy. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know about that, but okay. That's a little too open-minded.
Give
But
me a better
anyway,
theory.
somebody killed him.
Yeah.
Like, it was so many years ago, I don't think it matters anymore. Honestly, I really just don't think it matters.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought experiment.
It's like if we still didn't know who killed Abraham Lincoln, but all of a sudden found out. Okay, like what do we do with that information? Like, it's long past. There's a lot of history that's just a time capsule. It's just stuck in this group. It's like it only matters here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that implications of things, things that Kennedy did and things that happened after his death, don't matter. I'm just saying that the details of his assassination are long distance from relevancy.
It's like the Dyatlov Pass incident. Like, it's so far in the past that there's no way that we're going to be able to
just like, meh.
solve it at this point. So
it's just fun to talk about for many a podcast,
Exactly.
and everybody thinks they've got the next big answer to it.
It's a fun Wikipedia deep dive. Like, I highly recommend that one, Dyatlov Pass. Look it up.
Sure.
So this is, as you said, one of those episodes where they get a call. Well, they don't even specifically get a call. Fuller is out to lunch with Scully, because they're buds, apparently. And he tells her about this case that he's working. A couple of businessmen get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those...
Oh, yeah, this is the one where it's just like, hey, I need you to come in and make sense of it. And then she starts believing in the weird stuff, right?
Yep.
And it's like,
and
what are you
she brings
doing?
in Scully. Or
Yeah,
she brings Mulder.
Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? You were supposed to make it make sense. And,
Yeah. It's I learned about this last night, literally, where there's two different kinds of mysteries. There's whodunits and there's how catch'ems. This is a how catch'em episode.
Like, we know who did it.
We see
Or we
Tooms.
know what did it.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's interesting about the first episode is it's a lot of, wow, we're uncovering a lot of detail, but we don't know how to do anything with it because, I mean, just the fact alone of the 30-year in-betweens of, okay, so he's been doing this forever. Well, not forever. Well, for a long time.
Over a century.
But knowing the details of the past murders from 30 years ago doesn't help us because because he looks the same every time. And so it's like, okay, but that doesn't help because if anything, that makes it harder to indict him because that's just impossible.
Yeah, this episode was inspired by... I forgot to put this up at the top, but this episode was inspired by the murders of Richard Ramirez. Have you ever heard of him?
Hence my face.
Yes.
Being blank.
Yeah, you're not a true crime guy.
Nope.
And that's fine.
I'm interested by certain elements, but I don't deep dive every little thing that could be theorized or talked about.
Yeah, Richard Ramirez was I guess he was a sadist killer who would break into people's homes. He would unlatch. In California, there's a pretty common structure in your shower where there's a window right above your shower for steam and such.
Yeah, and looking at your neighbors, maybe, if your
you know,
shower's in the wrong place.
If you're Link, yeah. But he would unlatch the windows and he would climb in and not disturb the dust or the soap or anything on the windowsill. Yeah. And he was caught, obviously. He's an awful person. And
oh, yeah.
Don't look into his stuff if you have a weak stomach. He was also inspired by Jack the Ripper. Yeah. Yeah, who... world's most famous serial killer. Who possibly didn't exist.
Or was so many people because, I mean, it's just the relevancy. I mean, there was the other one, the Jumping Man. The
Spring Heel Jack.
Yeah, without, again, people kind of subscribed to, it was a one-off thing, and then more people just did weird stuff, and that's what made the lore of what was so weird. Like, every new case added more weirdness because it was different people doing things.
Well, it was around the same time as the Penny Dreadfuls, where those were weekly publications in the newspaper that a lot of people took as fact. People thought that Sweeney Todd existed, when in reality he was just a Penny Dreadful character.
So it's very much weird gimmick for murder guy.
And another thing that I forgot to mention was that, Tooms, one of his big MOs is eating the liver of his victims. That's one of the biggest thing that, alerts them to this is an X-file. The victims' livers have been ripped out of their bodies, not cut.
Yeah, because the bodies are generally left
Yeah.
just murdered, but he kills him for eating. Now, he picks, like, the second episode kind of deals a little bit more with who he picks. It kind of tries to elaborate more on what goes into deciding. But yeah, he needs 5 livers before his 30-year slumber, and that's what just keeps him going. And that's why I say, like, that's where it gets dissatisfying, because we get all of this interesting lore and story, but we never get, where did he come from? What led to him? Because the first one being, it's 1933, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, what led to this? Like, I think they even hypothesized, like, at some point, like, something to do with one of the wars or something. Like nothing concrete, though. And of course, he gets killed, so we don't get answers from him, and it's just like, we don't...
Surprise!
Was he... I mean, yes, I know they posit the whole metabolism thing, but was he really human? Was he a mutant? What creates what he is? Because it's not just the metabolism slumbery thing, but he's like contortionist, like expert level contortionist. That's what gets him his weirdness is, hey, the doors were locked, the windows were locked, how'd he get in? Usually the air duct. And so it's this weird, like, okay, so he's part snake, reptile, something maybe? Because he gets green eyes, and in that last one, he's like covered in stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know.
His main thing is that he builds a nest out of newspapers and his own bile.
Yeah.
Which is yucky.
Yeah.
Yucky, yucky, yucky.
It's very, well, and that's even very insectoid. Like, that's very waspy. Like, when they create their hives, they collect all this stuff to create this home. And, so it's like this combination of just, like, weird stuff. And usually, it's very clear they're going for a definitive type. Like, this is a ghost story. This is an alien story. This is a mutant story. This one is one of the first, which maybe it's because it's season 1, but this is, like, very... ambiguous.
Oh, this is the first Monster of the Week.
And it's dissatisfying because it's just like, I love the explanation. I like the making sense of things. I mean, certain things, it's just aliens. They came from up there. But certain other things, they're like, no, this happened, then this happened, and that created this. And I like those kinds of stories. So to get no satisfaction on all, it's just so, which... maybe you could call good writing because it keeps me interested, but...
Which, like, the ambiguity is something that I enjoyed from the story, personally. I understand why that would
some people don't like all the answers. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where it's just like, I don't need it for it to be good because these are 2 good episodes and that's why we talk about them and encourage you to watch them.
Yeah.
It's just that I think to round it out, it would have been nice to get some detail on what create, like, I'm as much intrigued by Frankenstein's monster as I am with the science of Frankenstein, if that makes sense.
Thank you for doing it correctly. Like,
yeah, like I like the creature as much as I like what made the creature. That's why Prometheus and Alien Covenant are so interesting to me because it does show the evolution. It shows what gets us to that fateful showdown with Ripley and the alien. Like, I like that build. Yeah. So. And
they do well with the story building, I think, of getting you interested in the character.
Yeah. So we're not talking about these for the vein of discussing every little detail, because, the end of the goal is to talk about an interesting episode that hopefully gets you, like, it's on Hulu, I could check it out. Maybe.
Yeah, which, please do. It's so great.
And so, like, the first one is very much it could be it's fine on its own.
Yeah, it ends with Toombs in prison.
Yeah.
After being caught, after...
Well, I mean, not really spoiler. Like, they had to deal with him, obviously.
Obviously.
Like, and the main characters don't die because it's only season 1, obviously.
Yeah, he was caught earlier in the episode after, looking for a dead cat in the duct system, when I think he was going after Scully, personally. But, yeah, that's the first... Maybe. Confirmation of, like, contortionism. He's in the ducts.
Which they got an actual contortionist to do, which was nice.
They got a contortionist from Canada named Pepper.
Interesting name.
Who I think has worked on some other stuff, if memory serves.
Probably. I mean, and that's what's nice is they do show enough of... It's not a completely blank of just, like, we see where they enter, but we don't see how they enter.
Yeah.
Like, they do a couple of times of, like, no, here's how it actually is working. Some of it's mind bend of, like, at the tease at the end is he's trying to learn how to escape, and he can stretch.
Yeah.
And so it's more than just joint disconnection. It's a little bit more Rubber Man, but even still, like aside from that one fake moment, they really tried to make it seem like no, he could just be normal. Like he could just be a dude, but he's not.
Yeah,
Because that wouldn't be as interesting.
there's a whole scene in the middle of the episode where they give him like a what's it called? The lie detector test. And he's answering all of these nuts questions that Mulder gave, like, are you 100 years old? No. Which is...
No.
Why would I be 100 years old?
Well, and then they use the same shot of him all the time, like zoomed in on his green eyes.
It's
and,
very
like,
spooky.
Yeah, and they use it constantly. That again signifies, okay, so he's not just the bendy guy.
Yes.
He's not just
he's
Stretch
sort of
Armstrong.
Merculator. Like, I don't know.
I don't know what that is.
He's a murderer.
Yeah.
Like, I really love the scenes of showing him getting through tight spaces. And that was...
Well, it's unsettling. It's really... they do that well of just like... And that's what's really interesting in some aspects of what we've seen so far is they don't go full Final Destination of don't do anything because everything could kill you. But they do have a level of just like... It makes you
look...
Yes. Because normally you're afraid of, oh, if someone's going to break in, they're going to go through a window or a door. But an air duct? Like, you think it's silly, but then you watch an unsettling episode, and then all of a sudden you're like, you're checking your air ducts.
Yeah,
like,
and afterwards there's a couple scenes of Mulder and Scully, like, avoiding air ducts in spaces like that. He eventually does break into Scully's house.
Yeah, that's what eventually gets him caught.
Yeah, he attacks Scully, and just as he's about to, like, deliverify her, Mulder shows up and handcuffs him to the bathtub.
Yeah. Which he should have been able to get out of.
Yeah.
But they needed it to end.
Yes. I fully agree with that statement. Like, why don't you just... Let's take care of this, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it could be because the ending, again, it teases that he's trying to learn how to escape through the food hole, the delivery bar of his jail cell door. So it goes to show it's like, he can't just do it because he wants to. He has to work on it.
Which, the next episode, which is a direct sequel, shows him getting close.
What's funny is he doesn't even have to escape because the system just kicks him out. But again... They didn't really have much evidence. Although, I will say, the main thing that leads them to Tombs in the first episode is they're like, oh, this weird fingerprint doesn't match anything. And then they're like, wait, what if it's this fingerprint but stretched?
Yeah, enhance.
And sure enough, it's a match then.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, so that puts him at the scene, though. Like, that does put him at least at the most recent murder.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Mulder's the one that found it, which tends to be like a crux for a lot of these episodes.
Yeah.
It's not about you. You're right.
The
it's
believer found it, so it can't possibly be. But then, so they just let him out on lack of evidence.
Yeah, he's charged for aggravated assault, but he gets put.
Community service. Like he gets to live with some nice old people.
Yeah, he does get to live with some nice old people.
Right.
What a butthole.
But it's just like the second episode is a little less interesting because it's more of just like, okay, we know he's gonna do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he didn't complete his ritual. Was the whole thing, so he can't hibernate yet.
Yeah, he only got 3 livers.
Yeah, then he releases and he gets one more, but they can't let him get the last one. So it just becomes again about that, okay, we know who did it, we know how they're doing it, we just need to get them. And so eventually it ends with them putting an end to Tombs. But again, it's kind of just a matter of like, all right, well, they're gonna know that guy just disappeared.
Yeah.
Which I guess they could be like, well, maybe he's just on the run.
Yeah.
But how do you explain that one in the end? I don't know.
Who knows? An interesting thing about this episode in particular is that this is the introduction of the name-dropped but rarely seen Agent Skinner, who is the deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Which most of the episodes we're probably going to bring up because usually he has at least one appearance.
Love Skinner.
He's usually the one that gives the file. Like, he's like, hey, check this weird thing out. And he's also the aggravator of this situation because he has a foot in both, where he believes in the work they do, but he is responsible to people.
Yeah.
And so it's constantly this balance of like, okay, how do I help you but not seem crazy?
Yeah, exactly. That's his whole thing.
Yeah, because if Skinner wasn't there, none of it would happen.
Yeah.
Like they would be out of the job. There would be no investigating this, and then the government would just get away with it. And that's
Exactly.
why Skinner plays the game.
Yeah, you did not like Skinner at first.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to, because he's super difficult. But again, it's laid on thick because they want you to dislike him so that later when it's revealed, I'm helping you. It's more meaningful. But I called pretty quickly that was what was going to happen because, I mean, it just makes sense. But then they ignore that, but it's whatever.
Yeah. Like, this episode is one of the first that, like, really hammers in. This is a big conspiracy. Like, you have Skinner, you have the smoking man, you have Deep Throat at one point.
Yeah.
I have to give context. Deep Throat is a character who helps Mulder.
Yeah, I feel I feel like most people know the reference of Deep Throat, but they don't.
Yeah.
They maybe didn't know it. I didn't know it came from X-Files. I thought it was something else. But obviously, I've seen it referenced so much and everything. So
yeah, there's a lot of helping hand characters.
Yeah, so like if you're into conspiracy shows, if you're into thrillers, if you're into weird stuff, X-Files is a pretty good show for that.
Oh yeah, big time.
And again, part of the idea of us talking about it is, hey, if you're wanting to try it, try these episodes to get you interested so that you can check out maybe the whole thing, or just watch these by our recommendation. I mean, at the end of the day, if either you watch the episode or watch the show, that's a win for us.
Yeah.
And the point of talking about it, I think.
Yeah, and you're gonna find as we go on with the series, there's not a ton of recommendations for season 1, but
that's literally the only 2, I think.
I don't remember. I don't have the list in front of me.
Season 2, we're basically going to talk about the whole
almost all of it, because season 2 is great.
But no, this isn't going to... We're not taking over the show with X-Files.
No.
So basically, in between talking about other things, so with certain movies releasing soon and certain shows happening, that we may and definitely talk about, that's a hint. In between those things, when we have time, we'll pull one out of the hat of just like, hey, what about this X-Files episode? Why should you watch it? And that's what the whole show's about. And it's also just an opportunity to talk about weird stuff that we like, which is part of the podcast. So hopefully, again, the win for us is if maybe you check it out. If you don't have Hulu, it might not be worth getting Hulu for. But there's also other good things on there.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed, not Assassin's Creed. I always get Assassin's Creed. Attack on Titan.
Yeah. I don't think most of our listeners are super anime aficionados, so that's what's going to be interesting when we eventually talk about certain things. But
well, I'm not either.
Well, you're more than your average.
Animes.
You're more than your average, though.
I don't know.
Give yourself credit.
I'm in what a
Gundam is.
I do know what a Gundam is, but that's because I'm married to you.
Yeah.
I have a very specific taste for anime.
Taste isn't the conversation. It's of anime, though.
I know of anime.
Yeah.
I
know what Parasite is, even if you don't necessarily like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
know what anime is beyond Hamtaro and Dragon Ball. Like that's the.
Although I do love.
That's the barrier.
Hamtaro and Dragon Ball.
Exactly, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So we'll pull another one out later of weird, alien-ish, cryptid-ish shows to talk about. We don't know which one's next, but whenever we have time, we'll talk about that next. Yeah, you're kind of in charge of it. We do have more NerdyVerse again coming out this month with exciting things. Obviously, one I can give you is we're talking about WandaVision. We're waiting for the behind-the-scenes look at things, so...
Yeah, hey, Certain Point of View podcast releasing their WandaVision thing today. Like, hey, we were going to do that, all right?
Yeah, everybody knows, two podcasts can't do the same thing.
Josh and Adam, you know what you're doing.
But no, we'll talk about it after we get the behind the scenes, just to see if that adds anything. But we plan to talk about the whole season in one episode. If we get enough interest, maybe we'll talk about more, in more episodes. But overall, we're going to kind of do an overview.
Yes.
And then, again, other things are coming out that are exciting, and we will be talking about them. And then we have Star Wars in the line and Hat Chatter. And also just keep an eye on our Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, where you should be following us because we got some cool announcements, some show growth that's going to be exciting. So
yes, we are.
Keep an eye out for that. Thank you to our patrons who make all of it possible. If you didn't like the sound of our pets in the background of this episode, go support us on Patreon.
Zowie. Buy new pets.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, give us money and maybe we'll do something about it. But no, like seriously, if you want to give input to the show, if you want to support the show and what we do and everything, then yeah, patrons what that's for. We have different tiers of support where we have little perks here and there, but the main thing is you get to help us decide things for the show, which is important and exciting. And Jim, Doug, and Rebecca have already done a great job of that with what's coming next with the show and everything. So definitely got to give thanks and shout out to them because they're awesome people. And you could be awesome too for only $1, $3, or $5 a month.
Yeah, or like $50 a month.
Yeah,
that too.
I'll give you my PayPal. Let me know my Venmo.
Yeah,
my Cash App.
If you give us $100 or like $1,000 a month, we'll take you to Disney.
I don't know because that's pretty much the $1,000.
We'll save up.
Yeah. We'll eventually go to Disney.
Well, eventually.
5 million subscribers and we go to Disney.
Yeah, there you go. 5 million, that's the cap.
Yeah, we've already mentioned some of our Red 5 friends, but Red5Network.com, full of other podcasts doing other things like WandaVision discussions and other film and TV and Star Wars discussions. So they're a great outlet for other things when we aren't putting out things. And then also for all your game stuff, we don't get to talk about games and we don't game as much. But our friend Jesse over at Game Infinite does. So GameInfinite.net, you can get all kinds of news, reviews, and blogs about game content, as well as over on his Instagram where he shares cosplay and art from ridiculously talented people that make me sick. But it's awesome. So if you like gaming stuff and all that, then check out GameInfinite.net or Game Infinite on Twitter and Instagram. It'll be worth it. And yeah. Truth is out there, man.
The truth
and
is
we're
out
gonna
there.
talk about it eventually.
I want to believe.
I want to believe.
Things. Yeah, Seth Green was in.
Believe in yourself.
This. Yeah. Yeah, Mulder.
I want you to believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself. Honestly. All right. Bye.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. You know, this is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.